Hey everyone, it's good to have you back. Welcome to the part 2 of the risk management series. I hope by now you have already watched part 1, that was Introduction to Risk Management. In case you haven't watched part 1 of risk management, do make sure you go and watch it. Link is given in the comment section. In part 1, you have already learned the basics of risk management. So in this video, we will take the discussion ahead and learn how to actually do risk management. The steps of risk management can be done in the following steps. Step 1, plan risk. Step 2, identify risk. Step 3, qualitative and quantitative risk analysis. Step 4, plan risk response. Step 5, implement risk response. And the last one, step 6, that is monitor risk response. Let's get started. So the first step in the risk management is plan risk management. Here, the project manager prepares a risk management plan for the project. So risk management plan is nothing but a structured document that defines how project risk will be identified, analyzed, and managed. So when we write the risk management plan, that is a project activity, okay, which is done by the project manager. Whenever project manager does any activity, there is some input to that activity. Like here, you can see that I have written project charter, project plan, and influences. These are the input which project manager, input means these are the documents which project manager can refer to write the project plan. Why project manager would refer to project charter? Because project charter has a high level risk for the project. Project plan also project manager can read before writing the risk plan or while writing the risk plan, because in the project plan you have scope plan, schedule plan, cost plan. So project manager can analyze the risk hidden in scope, schedule, cost, resources. So that's why project plan is the input. And influences. Project, while writing the risk plan, you know there are project influences like environmental condition, political condition happening which can affect the project. So these all project manager has to take into consideration while writing the risk plan. So that's why these three documents becomes the input to write the risk plan. Well, to write this risk plan, project manager uses some tools and techniques, like he might consult an expert, industry expert. He might do one-on-one meeting with the team members who are more experienced, and the whole team can sit together and do brainstorming. So these techniques can help the project manager to plan, to write the risk management plan better. Now let's take a look how a project manager exactly writes the risk plan. First component of the risk plan is objective. So here I've written an objective of the risk plan. So the objective of this risk plan is to identify, assess, and manage the potential risk in the project to minimize the impact on project cost, schedule, quality, and safety, and ensure successful project completion in compliance with all regulatory, technical, and environmental standards. So the next element which we write on the risk plan is risk strategy. So risk strategy means here that whenever a risk will come, how the project manager is going to handle it. So the first risk strategy which I have decided for this project is transfer. So risk transfer. So what does risk transfer mean? So risk transfer is basically whenever any risk will come, I can transfer it to the third party, or like outsourcing a task to a vendor. Suppose if my team is running short of time, so schedule missing that timeline is a risk, so I can outsource some work to a third party or a vendor. So the next risk strategy which we will be using in this project is avoid. Risk avoidance means eliminating the risk completely by changing the plan or approach. For example, choosing a proven technology instead of a new unstable tool to avoid project failure is an example of risk avoidance. Now it's time for the third risk strategy that we will be using in this project is escalate. Now let's understand what risk escalation means. So risk escalation means passing a risk to higher management because it is beyond the project manager's authority or control. For example, escalating a major budget approval issue to senior leadership is an example of risk escalation. The next strategy which we will be using in this project is enhance. So risk enhance means increasing the probability or impact of a positive risk opportunity. For example, adding extra skilled developers to finish the project early and gain the bonus. Well, that was a long list of risk strategy. So out of these risk strategy, which I have mentioned here, transfer, avoid, and escalate is used to handle a negative risk, which is known as threat. So threat is a negative risk. Negative risk means the uncertain events which cause a loss. So whenever there would be a threat, I can avoid it, I can transfer it to the third party, or I can escalate it to senior management. While enhance is a risk strategy which is used to handle a positive risk, that is opportunity. So positive risk is always an opportunity which can bring profit to a company if we take that risk. So we can enhance it if there is an opportunity. Well, once we are done with the risk strategy, we can write risk methodology in the risk plan. So third component in the risk plan is risk methodology. So risk methodology is basically defined as the methods and process used to manage risk. Okay, so you can see here I have written inspection, daily tracking dashboard, vigilance. All these can be the methodologies. So after risk methodology, we need to add roles and responsibilities in our risk management plan. So here you can see I have added the areas and the responsible stakeholder who will handle the risk. Like design related risk will be handled by Peter, construction by Mary, and so on. Well, that was a long list. The next thing which we write in the risk management plan is contingencies. We talk about contingencies and explicitly mention in our risk plan. So before we go and directly write the contingencies, let's understand what are contingencies. In a word, contingency means the buffer. So contingencies are like when we plan our monthly expenses, we keep some money extra so that if there is any unplanned expense comes in the month, we can easily utilize those extra money which we have kept as a buffer. Similarly, when the project manager plans the project and is writing the risk plan, he mentions some extra cost, that is cost contingency, or some extra time, that is schedule contingency, or some extra resource, that is resource contingency, which can be utilized during some unplanned things which comes in the project. So now we will add first the cost contingency. Cost contingency is of two types, contingency reserve and management reserve. Contingency reserve is the money which is kept for known risk. Like suppose if I know that there is a high technical complexity in the project which may bring rework. So I can plan contingency reserve for such risk. So contingency reserve is generally calculated 5 to 15% of the total project expense. So if your project expense is suppose 50,000, so your contingency you can take any percent between 5 to 15. Suppose if I take 10%, so 10% of 5,000 would be your contingency reserve. So next cost contingency is management reserve, which is for unknown risk like political change in the political condition, environmental conditions like flood and all. So it is for unknown risk which is completely planned by management. It depends on management how much amount the management wants to keep for the unknown risk. Like suppose here if we keep 10,000 or 20,000 as a management reserve. Next we will add the schedule contingency, which is extra time. So you can put any, like suppose you can take 20 days based on your project timeline, you can estimate your schedule contingency. Here I am taking 20 days extra to manage some unplanned work or issues which happens in the project. So the next element which we are going to add in the risk plan is risk assessment matrix. It is used as a tool by different organizations to prioritize the identified risk in the project. So this grid is added in the risk plan, but we don't use it here in the risk plan. We will be using it after the risk is identified, which is the next step of risk management. So for now, you just keep this, that this grid is added. This grid project manager can also make, or in most of the companies, these are already present. So you can ask from your senior manager and you can add it in the risk plan. How to use it, we will see in the next step. That is identify risk, which is the second step of the risk management. So the last element which we add in the risk plan is risk breakdown structure. So this risk breakdown structure, you can see it has 3 columns. Column 1 is level 0, which has all the risk. Column 2 is level 1, which has category of risk like technical risk, commercial risk, management risk. And the last column, that is level 2, has different types of risk. So you can see, suppose you have scope related risk, it comes under technical risk. So like that, you can categorize your risk so that you can assign the correct stakeholder. So we will use this in our next step. That is when we will identify the risk, we can categorize those risks whether it is technical, commercial, or management. So for now, we just add it in the risk plan. Well, this was a really long session. Thanks for staying with me throughout this session. This was all about step 1 of risk management, where we created the risk management plan. The next step is risk identification, where we will learn about how to identify the new risk in the project. So see you in part 3, where we will deep dive into different techniques and real world example of identifying risk effectively. Stay tuned and see you in the next one. Bye bye.